Good morning. My name is Reverend Darby Christopher. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning, and I want to express my gratitude for being asked to share with you all today. I am an interfaith minister. I graduated from One Spirit Learning Alliance, just like I know some of you have, and your beloved leader. I graduated in 2017 as an interfaith minister. And I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I really consider my primary vocation actually to be a mom. I have 2 kids, and that's probably how I've really spent most of my time in my adult life. But my secondary vocation, which is very dear to me, is as a dream worker. And I went through the Hayden Institute's Dream Group Leadership Training Program in 2005-2006, and have been involved in dream work ever since then, working with my own dreams and mostly in groups with people doing dream work. I also worked part-time as a psychotherapist from 2008 to 2012. And actually after I left that position, I did a training called sensory motor psychotherapy, and it very much informs how I think and the way I work now. And so I'll be sharing a little bit of that with you today. It gets woven through what I do, and is also a big part of the book that I just wrote that I spent the last 1.5 years writing. It's called From Anxiety to Connection, A Path to Authentic Relating. And those themes are the themes we'll be looking at today. And so if I had to sum up the theme for today, I would say that the theme is truth-telling. And it's not just truth-telling for its own sake. I would go one step further, and I would say that truth-telling is a path toward belonging. And it's a path toward belonging to ourselves, toward belonging to the people that we are with at any given moment, and to the wider communities in which we're embedded. And so we'll walk through each of those places and ways to tell our truth and what it means to feel like we belong. And what are some of the obstacles that come up around that. And I'm going to start off by, I'm going to tell you a little bit of my own story, which involves a pretty big obstacle for me. And it's that after I did the sensory motor psychotherapy training, I was aware that there were parts of my life that, stories I'd never told, or parts of my life that just did not feel integrated to me. And I've dealt with a lot of anxiety in my life. And I think a shame undercurrent in that anxiety. And so I was aware that I had this work I needed to do. The problem is that when I set out to do it, and again, inspired by sensory motor psychotherapy, I found that I hit a roadblock. And I went to several different professionals to address what I felt like were probably effects of trauma in my life. But I found that when I went, settled in for a session and was really excited about telling my story and wanted to tell my story. But when I actually did it, when I actually told my story, I didn't feel very good. I felt injured inside, and I did not feel liberated. So I didn't get to the freedom that I was really looking for. And that really set me on a journey, because I could not understand that. I thought, well, why is it that I can hear other people tell their stories and it seems so liberating? It looks liberating. It looks wonderful. So why not me? Why shouldn't I be able to tell my story too? And of course, the answer to that is yes, I do deserve to tell my story. And I think we all deserve to tell our story and be able to be honest about who we are and tell our truth. But it's not that simple. It's just not as simple as saying, okay, I'm going to do this. And kind of from an ego standpoint, I'm going to drive this through. It doesn't really work that way. There's a lot more nuances and subtle edges to that process. Why my screen just got a little bit darker all of a sudden, but oh, there we go. It's light again. Okay. So I'm going to talk again a little bit about what that process has been like for me. And yeah, so we'll see where we get with that. Yes, so I'd say the first thing I want to convey that I learned from my own experience is just even the simple value of telling the truth to myself. And that's the first step in liberation. And I would say that that is the goal ultimately, because belonging to me as a human animal, belonging is so essential that it feels like freedom. I would say that belonging and freedom are almost the same thing. If we feel we belong to ourselves and to others, I would say we feel free. And so obviously there's a lot of self-acceptance that goes into that. And so that's what we're talking about too. So the first step, again, for me is telling the truth to myself. And so I had to start, and it did feel good, just admitting that, you know, I try to look real cool. I try to look like I have it together. The truth is I really don't. And I really didn't, and I really don't. I'm a little closer now that I'm telling the truth, my own truth. But yeah, that takes a lot of energy, you know, acting like we have it all together. It takes too much energy. I don't want to spend my energy doing that. So first step for me is just admitting to myself, you know, I'm kind of a mess. And the more I read and the more I talk and the more I listen, I understand, I'm coming to understand more that we all have a part of us that feels that way and feels like a little bit of a mess. We don't have it together as much as we want to tell ourselves or as we want others to see us. So it can feel very liberating to simply tell myself that. And I want to just give a huge plug for journaling right now. Write it down. Writing it down is really liberating. And it's amazing I've made it this far already without even mentioning the pandemic yet. So I'll mention that now and say that amidst all the suffering, I think we're also aware there are some gifts. Thankfully, that does not minimize the suffering, but it's okay to acknowledge the gifts as well. And one of the gifts right now, which I bet you all have talked about already, is time for some of us and the ability to slow down. I know that I'm really getting into some area of privilege here too, that we have to acknowledge also. If we have time to slow down, if we have time to journal, we can be deeply grateful, even as we work for a world where everybody has time for these essential qualities of just some space, you know, which not everybody has. If you are fortunate and have the space to spend time to be quiet and journal and tell yourself and work on some of these truths and work on integrating ourselves, we are very fortunate. So that's one way I would name as a beginning of the process of truth telling and telling the truth to myself. And then there is just sitting in silence. And so again, going along with our same theme of slowing down, boy, there is nothing like doing nothing to really help ourselves slow down and to feel ourselves enter into that slow wave space, that slower space where our breathing slows. And so I'm mimicking it right now as I talk a little bit slower. I feel myself even in that rhythm, allowing myself to come into a more connected space with where I am right now. And I had the thought earlier today that I think the most true thing that any of us can say about ourselves, the most true statement for me is the two simple words, I am. And I meant to look it up before this and I didn't, but I meant to look up the verses in the Bible where, is it Moses? Is that, who do I say who sent me? Well, we're going to find out later. I'm going to find out later. And God says to say, I am sent you. And I believe that that is, if we really sink into our deepest truth, that we can find when we're really still, really slow and quiet. We can feel that deep sense that, you know, I just am. And that's the most true thing about me. It's not my roles in life. It's not, it's not any descriptor I could even give about myself. It's just a quality of being. So in this way, I can belong to myself. If I slow down, I keep closing my eyes because that's what I do when I slow down and get that sense of deep connection to myself, and know that I just am. And so in that, like a tree or a lake or the grass or a bird, I'm not that different. You know, I just am like they just are. And in the same way that we would not judge, I don't sit here and judge a tree or anything else around me, right? So I think that we can ultimately work on and learn not to judge ourselves in the same way. So let me see how I'm doing on time here. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, this is going by fast. All right, that's fine. So let's see, moving along to staying connected to our deepest selves in community. And I'm gonna just talk about a couple of ways to do that. One is, of course, if we seek out some kind of professional services, and that can be from a therapist, a spiritual director, a coach, a companion, a minister. So it doesn't matter, you know, who we seek out that helping relationship from to do our truth telling. But that's, like I shared in the beginning, it's tricky, you know, we can't necessarily just go in and go blah. We have to find ways to pace ourselves, slow down our own pace, especially if there's been trauma in our lives and stuff that we haven't gotten to yet. We can re-injure, we can feel re-injured when we bring those parts up. In fact, Donald Kalsched in the book Trauma and the Soul talks about our innocent selves and how that's really been the function of our pain and defenses, has been to guard that innocent self, to keep it from further harm. And so when we put ourselves in a position to bring that innocent self back up again and in relationship, we really put it at risk. And so we wouldn't do that. We don't do that lightly. We do that carefully. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that right now because of a lot about that is in my book. If you're interested in this piece, then you might want to check it out. Lots of just like guidelines and tips on how to go slow in that situation. But the reason I'm not going to talk about that a lot right now is because I really want to get to ways that we can begin to know ourselves better in community, in groups of people. And we are already familiar with some of those ways, and you're probably doing some of those ways already. I think that, you know, groups that address the specific issues that people have are a great way to own our deepest self and our deepest truth in community. So for example, AA groups, perfect example. Divorce recovery groups for people who are suffering from depression or anxiety. All those are great ways to connect with our deepest selves in community, because we know we're going to be accepted because other people are going through what we're going through. But there are other ways too to expand that out. Like, for example, even groups that meet to talk about books or movies. Well, you're going to have different opinions. You're going to have different views. Those are going to give us opportunities to share who we are around something that has become the focus of the time. And in the same way, so I want to really reserve the rest of our time. I want to say a few words about dream work and how that can function in a group to help us connect with our deepest selves. Because in order to talk about this, I probably need to say one more word about how we split things off and say something is not me, even though it is me. But how early in our childhoods, we are learned that certain parts of us aren't acceptable to our families and communities. But we need belonging so much that we have really little choice, and it happens unconsciously. But to take these parts of us and say, nope, you're not welcome here anymore. You don't belong here. I'm not you. It works for a while. It's helpful. Problem is those parts don't go away. And later they come back and they disturb us because they don't want to be left over there. They need to get back in. They need to be integrated and become a part of us. And one of the great things that happens at night when we dream is that some of our filters, our normal filters that we use during the day to help us get through the day, that we consider, to be our conscious selves, the material that we push off, those filters get shut down at night, so that our dreams will really pick up on these parts of ourselves that we have said are not okay and that we don't want to acknowledge. And likewise, in our society and culture, societies do the same thing. Societies say this energy isn't welcome here, right? Like, for example, you just take the example of Black people's experience in our country, which has come to the forefront, thankfully, now, and how, certain parts of, most of society has wanted to say, oh, don't worry about that anymore. That happened a long time ago, or it's not. No, that's not right. It's happening right now. And so it has to be integrated. And so those parts, whether it's our personal unconscious, whether it's our communal unconscious, are going to show up in our dreams and give us an opportunity to acknowledge them and own them in community, which helps it get reintegrated. Because I think that we tell the truth to ourselves, and that's a great place to start. But ultimately, our goal is to be able to own ourselves in a group. And that's my goal anyway. It's to be able to say, yeah, here's who I am. It's different from who you are. I don't see things the same way as you do, but this is who I am, and I'm okay. I deserve to be met right where I am. I deserve to be met also. I deserve to belong, and so do you. And so when we get together in dream groups and look at our dreams, we give ourselves an opportunity to see and acknowledge these pieces. And the way that dream groups work, again, is a very safe container. And I probably haven't emphasized safety enough so far in this talk, but safety in any container is so important, whether it's one-on-one or in a group. We have to feel that it's safe. And the way we feel it's safe is by establishing certain rules of interaction. And those rules say that we don't get to fix anybody. We don't get to tell anybody what's right or wrong. Everybody gets to own their own truth. And you establish that norm. And so groups that do that, it's an essential piece. And that's an essential part of dream work also. So let's see, I'm probably about out of time. See what I would like to say in conclusion. I think I would like to add that this is a journey, and we are all just on the path. And, there are certain dynamics at play in our lives right now that we wish weren't there. We wish we could wave magic wand, make it go away. We wish it were as simple as just telling our truth, and then it's just gonna go away, right? But that's not really how it works. I think it's more like a pebble on a scale. But this is hopeful too, because it really means that every day we can just add another pebble to the scale. So every time I take a deep breath and notice how I'm feeling, every time I get up the courage to say something, to speak my truth out loud, even though it makes me uncomfortable, and then I take a deep breath and acknowledge that's okay, because I deserve my truth, and I just put a little pebble on the scale. What happens eventually is that those pebbles do add up, and that we do experience, and I know you know this from experience yourself, that there come times or days when we go, oh, I think I feel a little bit lighter now, or yeah, I am doing better than I was 5 years ago. I feel more free. Life feels better now. And it's because we've been doing that work all along. We might not have realized each moment, how important each moment was, but we've been doing that work. So I said I was going to talk about sensory motor psychotherapy more. I'll say one thing about that and then I'll end. And that's that sometimes the way we tell our truth might be in a body movement. Like Pat Ogden, the founder of Sensory Motor, talks a lot about sitting up straight and noticing what happens when we slouch, or notice what happens when we sit up straight. And these are ways we come home to ourselves too, and the ways we tell our truth to ourselves. What does it feel like when I sit up straight, when I hold my shoulders back and my spine straight? Do I deserve to come home to myself in that way and belong to myself in that way and belong to you all in community? Thank you so much again. I really appreciate this. I encourage all of us to reach out to one another, to do the work that we need to do. If anybody's interested in doing dream work or being a part of a dream group, that's what I love to do, and I'm happy to help people start dream groups, be part of them, or just consult on that, as well as spiritual companioning. So reach out to one another, reach out to me, reach out to somebody else, but let's all be in the stream doing the work together that we can do in this time. The world needs us. We know that. We know we're needed. So let's all be doing our work. And I wish you well. Thank you again. Bye-bye.